Welcome back. We're going to be reading from Oriel's diary again. If you joined us at Christmas, we read the first part of the story, which was the story of the birth of Jesus, obviously. And so several people said they enjoyed it a lot, so I thought, well, I'll carry on reading. We're going to skip a few pages, but not many, and we're going to continue the story. Each day between now and Easter, other than the first few weekends, we're going to do Monday to Friday each week until Palm Sunday weekend. There will be a little bit of reading. I'll let you know while you'll be able to see how long they are. They'll all be on a playlist on YouTube and all numbered, so you can kind of catch up if you've not watched them all, or you can just do a whole chunk at a time. The reason for doing this, simply because I think this book gives us a really good fictional idea of the life of Jesus, really. And so we're going to go through some of Jesus's ministry. We're going to kind of skip through 3 years of ministry in about 6 weeks. And then we're going to be focusing really on that Holy Week story, specifically from Palm Saturday, so the day before Palm Sunday, all the way through to Easter. And so some of the days, Friday in particular, on Good Friday, there'll actually be sort of about 3 episodes on the Friday, which will be released at the time during the day that they happen. So that's the intro done. We're going to start at a little bit away in, but we're going to start at the beginning of Jesus's ministry. And tomorrow, as we celebrate Ash Wednesday and the beginning of Jesus's 40 days in the wilderness, we'll read that little bit then as well. AD 27, 18 years later. Jesus AD 27. Jesus announced today that he's leaving the family business at the end of the financial year and moving to the small fishing community of Capernaum on the northern shore of the Sea of Galilee. We've been waiting for this moment for many years. Our real work now begins. For security reasons, we've not been able to talk or write about Jesus' future. It's only in the most secret places of heaven that our boss's plan has been discussed. But now the flag is up, and the opposition will most certainly have heard the news. I have called an angelic council immediately, and before it starts, I must speak with my boss. Later. This was the first discussion I've had with Michael for many Earth years. Throughout Jesus' human life so far, Michael and his troops have been maintaining a spirit exclusion zone around Nazareth to enable Jesus to grow up without any unusual spiritual interference. Michael arrived at a meeting in a festering grump. Capernaum is a ridiculous place for him to live, he asserted. It is very close to the border between the Jewish and non-Jewish territories, and, to add to the problem, he's chosen a waterside location, which is very hard for us to defend. Having raised this exact issue with our boss earlier, I was equipped to handle Michael's outburst with the same reply that I had received. I calmly said, "That's right." Michael was too distracted by worry to pick up the point. Why, for everyone's sake, does he not move to Jerusalem, which is, after all, the obvious place for him to go? He chose Capernaum, I stated. Why? Michael persisted. For all the reasons you just explained. Michael is an excellent warrior, but he is rarely quick to understand the workings of his boss's mind. There was a long silence while the commander of the angelic armies struggled to comprehend what was happening. Are you telling me, he said slowly, that the son wants to live in a place where he is utterly open to the attacks of the opposition at a time when they are concentrating all their resources against him? Yes. So what do I do? Watch carefully and wait for orders, I explained. But most important of all, make sure that none of your forces interfere without authorization from either myself or the boss. Michael was quiet. Next, it was Gabriel's turn, and I suspected that he would not like his instructions either. Jesus' arrival is not going to be announced in the usual angelic fashion, I explained. Our boss wants to leave everything in the hands of the humans he has chosen. Our role is to watch carefully but keep our hands and mouths to ourselves. Gabriel, the job you usually do will be done by Zechariah's son, John. You already know the family. He nodded. I want you to lead John out into the Judean desert and help him to proclaim the message outlined there. I passed him the file our boss had given me. Gabriel took it with an air of resignation. Remember, I continued, as with Michael, you must keep out of sight and let the humans do the work. Gabriel pulled a dissatisfied face. He likes to be where people can see him and enjoys his earthly reputation as the angel of the Lord. Several months or years spent unseen in an earthly desert, watching a human attempt at proclaiming our boss's message is not an assignment he would have chosen. The leader of the opposition will mash him. Michael's sudden outburst surprised us all. Jesus is only a mortal man now, he continued. He doesn't stand a chance. He has made us a little lower than the angels. Raphael's calm voice added a new dimension to the tense atmosphere in my office. We all looked at him, bewildered by his apparently meaningless contributions to the proceedings. It's a line from a Jewish hymn, Raphael explained. It points out that humans and angels are not as different as we like to suppose. I rather wanted to end the meeting at that point, but there was one more item of business. Raphael, I said, your role is to lead the worship of heaven as usual. Thank you, friends. A few weeks later. Today I'm visiting Gabriel by the River Jordan, where John, they call him the Dipper, is based. I was surprised to find my old friend in buoyant mood. Look at this, he exclaimed, showing me to the place where John was busy dunking another candidate in the murky waters of the Jordan. I usually pass the boss's messages to one individual at a time, but this man is telling it to hundreds of them all at once, and every day they keep coming. We stood and watched as Jesus' cousin answered questions from the large crowd of humans surrounding him. They were asking how they could respond to our boss's wishes in the particular situations of their different lives. To each simple, practical question, John gave a simple, practical reply. And all the while, Gabriel watched and glowed with delight. How are the two of you getting on? I asked. Fine, said the great messenger. Every evening, when crowds have gone home, we sit and talk in front of a fire while John brews up his locust and honey soup. The soup smells disgusting, but the conversation is excellent. I think I will stay the night and join in. Next morning. The conversation certainly was excellent. John's life of solitude and simplicity has helped him develop a strong spirit. Here in the desert, away from the usual selfish clamour of human life, he could hear every word we said without any fear or misunderstanding. Now I understand why Gabriel is enjoying himself so much. Last night we talked about the sun. John already has a fair understanding of what's happening. The heart of his message is that someone greater than himself is on the way. I was eager to know if John knew that that person was his cousin from Nazareth. It seems that he has a general awareness that Jesus fits into the picture somehow, but the two of them have not seen each other for many years. Having both Gabriel and myself there was a great help to him, and he quickly learned to recognise our different spiritual voices as they echoed in his thoughts. I'm fairly sure that he'll be able to recognise Jesus when he comes to show up. So far in this operation, we've controlled the timings, but now the Son's in charge. For the eternal Son to be in command is a familiar experience for us, but the factor I find difficult to accept is that the affairs of heaven are now in the hands of a human being. While John slept, Gabriel said, "You're looking troubled, my friend." When I explained my concern about the Son being human, he suggested that we talk to Raphael. Raphael was busy teaching his choir a new song when we arrived in heaven. He does not like to be disturbed. What do you two want?" he asked. "Oriel's worrying," Gabriel said bluntly. "What's new?" "Raphael," I began, "the son has become a man now, so now our boss's whole plan is in the hands of a human being. Isn't that dangerous?" "My dear Oriel," Raphael replied, "Jesus is the eternal Son, and therefore our boss's plan is in the very hands that created you. Could it be safer?" He turned back to his choir. "We'll take it from the 73rd Alleluia." That same evening. Well, there was I this morning, considering the fact that Jesus is in complete control of the timing of his work, and this afternoon, guess who showed up? John was sitting on a rock by the river's edge talking about my boss's desire to sort out his creation, when he suddenly stopped. Everyone turned their heads to follow John's gaze, and a murmur of, "What's he looking at?" rippled through the crowd. For Gabriel and me, the question was quickly answered. There at the back of John's large congregation stood Jesus. The riddle was solved for the crowd when Jesus walked right up to John. From the silence in the valley, it was evident that everyone knew that something significant was happening. Jesus spoke first. "I would like to be dipped," he announced. The crowd waited quietly. This was not an unusual request. Every week, hundreds of Jews had been dunked in the river by John. It was John's reply that revealed something very strange was occurring. He simply said, "No," and then added, "I won't do it." Gabriel was fascinated and whispered a commentary to me. "For months now, he has been dunking anyone who asked him. This is the first time he's refused." Jesus and John silently searched one another until each was quite sure who the other was. "Shouldn't it be you who dips me?" John asked out loud. "No," Jesus was clear and confident. "It is important that we do this." Again, they searched each other in silence for a long while before John spoke. "All right." As the two cousins stepped down into the water, something turned this common sight into a compelling drama. Jesus knelt on the riverbed with the greenish liquid reaching up to his chest. There was a pause. Then John grasped the younger man by his shoulders, plunged him under the water, and held him down. For reasons that I cannot explain, angels have a great dislike of water. So to see the son firmly held underneath the stuff woke 100 irrational fears in my being. I leapt up and was about to shout, "Don't kill him, you idiot! He's my boss's son!" But Gabriel grabbed me from behind. At last, John raised his precious victim up into the warm air. Jesus refilled his lungs hurriedly. All of a sudden, and only for the briefest moment, the spiritual fog that normally surrounds the earth cleared away, and our boss could be seen, bathed in the light of heaven above the Jordan Valley. He had about him that slightly tearful pride that human parents feel when their children pass the milestones of growing up. Jesus immediately looked upwards, and his dad said, "Well done, my son." His voice was full of pleasure and parental pain. As I watched, I saw that most mysterious aspect of my boss's nature, the director, gliding down the atmosphere, through the atmosphere like a bird to land on the sun's head. The whole episode had only taken a few earth seconds, but for those few seconds, heaven and earth had been united. Gabriel whispered to me, "Look, they all saw." He directed my attention to the 400 or so humans who'd been seated on the grass listening to John preach. They were all looking up to the same place in the sky. They had all, just for a moment, seen something of their God.